Hi again, guys. It's John here. It's November 13th, 2021 again. I may not actually post this today, but I'm recording it now since I have this opportunity to record. And I want to just share something with you because I have a feeling that it would be relevant to other people. Now, like I said, we're going through this very intense purging. I've said in my previous recording that we're going through this very intense sort of purging process. And it's just funny how everyone seems to be in this agitated sort of state as this stuff is coming up. And I think it's necessary, like I said, for us to purge that so that we can advance. But in my own personal experience over the past few years, I've had some very interesting things happen. And then I had a moment of clarity about what that was all about. So over the past few years, I have sort of pursued a lot of things that have been things that I wanted to do for a very long time, some of them since my childhood. And so I put a lot of energy and even a lot of money into some things that didn't work out. And I was kind of upset about that, and I was angry about it because I worked really hard for a long time, and I was tenaciously going after these sort of dreams of mine. And they didn't work out, not because I failed, but because I came to realize that these dreams that I had were not entirely based on reality. Like I had sort of rose-colored glasses around people and places and things that I didn't realize were not accurate. And so, but nonetheless, I was still going like, why did I do this? It's just unusual because at the time, this is where the irony comes into this, right? At the time when I was doing it, felt like I needed to do this. And usually when I do something that I feel called to do, it works out, in a beneficial, nice way that makes me happy. So when I did that, and then these things didn't work out the way I was expecting them to, I was quite upset. I'm going like, what the hell? Why would I be guided to do something that turned out to not be fruitful? And so one night, and this often happens with me, one night I kind of talked to Spirit and I said, what is going on? What was the point of that whole experience? And often when I do that, in fairly short order, I will have an answer. And the answer that I got was really surprising to me. And I actually ended up thinking about it for quite some time afterwards. And I still am, actually, because I haven't fully resolved. One of those situations, I invested a lot of money into something. And I have to deal with that, recoup what I can and so forth, and make a bunch of decisions that are going to alter the course of my life. So anyway, the answer that came to me is that you needed to do those things to get them out of your system so that you wouldn't be attached to those ideas because you've held them for a really long time and they were very dear to you. And then I was like, oh my God, okay, that makes sense. So like one of these things in particular was an idea, a vision, a dream that I had sort of had probably since my early 20s, which is a long time ago. And now I have come to find out, and it's disappointing to find out that, these dreams that you have aren't really what you want, right? But I also know that spiritually, for example, desires is one of the things that keeps us coming back to incarnate here. Unfulfilled desires. Like when we really desire something and we want it, it's like we're magnetically drawn to it, right? And we have to work that out. So I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes we can have experiences where things don't work out the way we expected them to or hoped that they would. But that's actually in our highest good because in a sense that is also like a kind of purging where we're letting go of these sort of false beliefs that we have, these false dreams, right? And it's not to say that the dream itself that I had in my head wasn't beautiful and ideal. It was. It's just that in reality, do I really want to live that out in that way? And as it turns out, no, I don't. Right? So this is liberating me from those unfulfilled desires. They're no longer desires of mine. That means that I can focus my heart and my intention and my mind on other things that may actually be more aligned with who I am. But if I hadn't actually gone through that whole process of trying to make those things happen and putting in all the time and effort, and ultimately having the realization that I actually don't want that, and being able to let it go, if I hadn't done that whole thing, because I'm stubborn as hell, right? Like I will really focus on something that I want, and I will go for it. And I'll even to the point of where it'll almost kill me. I had to go through that whole experience just to realize that that's not what I want. Now, I'm sharing that with you because I just have a feeling that if you're one of these people out there and you're going like, well, why isn't this working out, or why didn't that work out, or whatever, that may be the reason. Now, I'm not saying that's going to apply to everybody. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But we have to kind of get these things out of our system, because, if we don't, we're just going to continue to carry them. We'll always have these thoughts of like, maybe if I had done this, or I should have done that, right? So this was very insightful for me. I still, at this point in time, I'm still kind of going like, oh man, I put so much energy into this or that or whatever. So I'm not at the point where I have completely released those things completely. Probably 75, 80, 82% I'm getting. So just wanted to share that with you, because sometimes, people beat themselves up when they quote unquote fail. And there's another thing too on a higher level is that, those of us who are really on the spiritual path, we're really on a path of undoing. It's not about doing. We've had many lifetimes. We've probably been, very privileged in some lifetimes. We might have been enslaved or imprisoned in others. We've had many, many, many experiences, right? So no, as we're heading back on the wheel of karma, back to where we started, or back to where we came from, we have to let go of a lot. This is very sort of 12th house kind of energy. And so for those who are really on the spiritual path, it's very much more about undoing than doing, where we've had the experiences of glamour and illusion and all those things, and where we might be at a stage where we're releasing the final vestiges of our attachments to false beliefs and ideas and illusions, so that we can just become a pure essence of who we really are. And these beliefs, these desires that we have, are very powerful. Especially, the more spiritually aware you are, they have a lot of power. And so, releasing them, and through experiences that cause us to realize, that they are illusory or whatever, is a very valuable but not easy experience, because of course, we are attached to these things. It could be, I want the perfect wife, or what, really, like, how can anybody outside of you bring you true inner peace? That there's a lot of illusory aspects around that, and I see a lot of people very focused on that. Or, I should be, a multimillionaire or billionaire, whatever. I should be super successful or whatever. Like, on a spiritual level, it doesn't matter, right? None of that stuff really matters. We don't need anything outside of us to define who we are. Nothing, not one iota. We carry within us everything we could possibly need, and more that we don't even realize. And so this process of undoing is very potent, but it's very difficult for the ego, of course, because that's what we identify with, and that's how we identify ourselves. And that's how society identifies to us. Like, if you don't have some kind of an identity that people can pin on you, it's almost like you don't exist. Nonetheless, we need to shed all those things. And so, yeah, I've gone through a period of several years where I have been shedding a lot of illusions, basically. And I feel that period is about to end, and might have something to do with the fact that the South Node is going to be moving into Scorpio in January. It's like January 19th or the middle of January. The South Node has been transiting Sagittarius. From January, it'll be about 18.6 months. And that's kind of a diminishing energy. And so it's been a kind of a rough ride for Sagittarians and all things Sagittarian for the past, year and a half or so, because that energy is not very conducive to expansion. It's more a process of sort of undoing, and certainly what I'm describing fits within that time frame. I'm not an Aquarian, by the way. Just my channel is called Aquarian Diary because I want to talk about the Aquarian age. I'm actually a Sagittarian. So when the South Node moves out of Sagittarius and into Scorpio, I think this is kind of like at the beginning of a new cycle of probably growth and expansion for me, and maybe less of this sort of undoing stuff. But again, I'm sharing this story about letting go of dreams and the difficult process of doing that, just because I think it might help explain to other people why they're going through some of the things that they're going through, right? So if you're not a very materialistic person, as I am not really, you can see the sense in that. If you're somebody who's more sort of grounded in 3D reality and more materialistic, it could be extremely difficult and frustrating. People can do pretty extreme things when they go through periods of perceived failure or loss. I don't perceive this, what I went through, as a loss or failure, because I actually did a good job and I worked really hard. The failure, if any, was that my false belief that that's what I wanted and that it would make me happy. And the truth is, it won't, and it doesn't. But I didn't know that until I went through this whole process. So there you go, sharing that with you. Very interesting, right? This is counterintuitive, but it came to me very clearly, and I'm thankful for that answer. There's a lot more stuff that I'd like to talk about, and I hopefully will be able to do that soon. So I, again, would really appreciate any feedback, your comments, likes, shares, subscribes, and so forth.